this verse? Was it good that he separated them? Did Elohim separate, or did the transgression cause Elohim to separate it? Because at this point, having eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, humankind had to make a decision whether to go to the water or not to go to the water. We consider that it was a good decision that Elohim made, and he saw that it was good because he understood that the free will that we had to exercise was still intact and still in place. We would have to decide to accept, to believe, to receive his word and restoration and be called the children of Elohim, or to reject it. So, verse 12, and the earth brought forth grass, herb yielding seed after its kind, and trees bearing fruit, wherein the seed thereof, having the seed inside of it, after its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. So if we continue with the idea that earth, in a way, represents us, then we can understand that in this verse, if we allow ourselves to be watered by the word that comes down from our Elohim, or that comes up from our Elohim, that we pay heed to his anointing, the wells that spring up within us, the mist that comes up from the ground, then we could see how we would produce within us the trees that bear fruit. Dry land can produce nothing. I don't know how the S got in there, but that's cool. This is supposed to be bearing fruit, or Elohim sees this bearing of fruit as good. In the following verse, we again see that there was evening and there was morning. We have to understand that even though we are producing fruit in our lives, we are still required to seek the light to continue to grow. Trees, grass cannot grow in the dark. It has to have the light in order for, in this case, photosynthesis and all that biological stuff to take place for it to grow and bear fruit. So we always go from the darkness seeking the light in order to grow fruit. This was the third day. 3 is the numerical value of the Gimel, a letter that represents not only stability and fruitfulness in our life, but it's also the numerical value of the Ruach HaKodesh. It's a unique, distinctive, set-apart, one-of-a-kind spirit of Yehovah Elohim that produces fruit within us. And we read a difference in what it is to be dry and what it is to be watered in Galatians, where it talks about, it's in Galatians 5, I'm going to go the opposite direction because I got used to going backwards now. But it says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, meekness, self-control. Against these things there is no instruction. Okay? This is the fruit that we bear when we allow ourselves to be watered. But what happens when we allow ourselves to be dry? For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are opposed to one another, if you are not able to do as you desire. And it says, the works of the flesh, this is Galatians 5:19, are clearly revealed, which are adultery, impurity, uncleanliness, lustfulness, idolatry, witchcraft, enmity, fighting, jealousness, anger, rivalry, stubbornness, divisions, heresies, envying, murder, drunkenness, reveling, and the things like these that are the things that draw us away from Elohim. It's also the things that make for a very, very bad life if we indulge in those practices specifically. So we have the fruit of the Spirit that can push us forward and have a good life and enjoy all the things in life that we want to enjoy without getting involved in the things that will keep us dry. So, on the fourth day, Elohim put lights in the firmament the sun, the moon, the stars. As the transgression of the Adam made us finite beings, we entered into time, and these lights are for our benefit. They serve to remind us of Elohim's redemption in the feasts and the festivals. In the lights we see the Dalet, a letter that not only reminds us of our spiritual poverty, it's the fourth day, the Dalet, that not only reminds us of our spiritual poverty and that death will ultimately result from remaining in it, but it also reminds us of the door to life, who is Yeshua, the incarnation of Shabbat and of the feasts and festivals. So the fourth day we have the lights that he says they'll be for times and for seasons. He says, I'm giving you time so that you'll understand that at 1 o'clock you have to sit down and eat lunch, basically. But also we remember that we have the agricultural cycle, that now they know when they need to plant, when they need to harvest, when they need to let the ground sit. They also understand that they have Pesach, and that they have the feasts and the festivals in line, that they celebrate. Well, here we have Elul begins, and what we've just gone through, we have Rosh Hashanah, we have Yom Kippur, we have Sukkot, and now we have Simchat Torah, where we go back to the beginning and start all over again. But they also remind us that without these things, we're in a state of spiritual poverty. That these things are a representation of Yeshua HaMashiach, that all of the feasts and festivals that are talked about in the Torah represent an aspect of Yeshua, represent an aspect of his coming, represent an aspect of our future, represent an aspect of the millennial reign, represent an aspect of the eternal reign of Yehovah. So these things are set in place as a constant reminder that without our Elohim, we are in a state of spiritual poverty, that we should keep our eyes focused on him. It says, we go on to verse 21, where it's going to start talking about the fifth day. And it says, and Elohim created the great sea serpents. King Jimmy and everybody else says great sea monsters, or it says whales. We'll talk about this word in a minute. But created the great sea serpents and every living creature that creeps, with which the waters swarmed after its kind, and every winged fowl after its kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. On the fifth day, we see the creation of fish and birds. What else can we discern? In the word gadol, meaning great, we have the root gadal, which means to become great, to become important, to become magnified. The word sea in the English of this verse is not found in the Hebrew. Okay? So that's just a little note there. The word sea does not occur in the Hebrew, leaving us with the word tanin yim, which doesn't mean whale or monster, but more specifically it means dragon or serpent. The idea in this word is the paradox of the letter tet. And we've talked about the paradox of the letter tet more than once, but for our visitor, we have the letter tet, which represents two things. All Hebrew words we say are composed, or all Hebrew letters are composed of other letters. In this case, we have a vav, which is the sixth letter of the alphabet, represents humankind, bowing in submission to the letter Zion, a representation of the rest, nourishment, and protection of the Word. That we have a choice of submitting ourselves to the Word, or the other side of tet is that it looks like a serpent, and that we can crawl on our belly. And every time we see belly in the Word, we're reminded of the serpent, that we can crawl on our belly and eat from the dust of the ground, just like the curse that Elohim put on the serpent. That is the paradox of tet that we see here. So we can choose to follow Elohim according to his word, or live life according to our own self-glorification as found in the word gadol. We can live our life saying, I'm going to become great. I'm going to become important. I'm going to be magnified. As opposed to magnifying our Elohim and being Yehudim, being grateful for what we receive and praising Him for what we receive through His benefits and through His bounties. Okay? So, the first time that we see the letter Nun as a root of a word in Torah is here in verse 21 in the word Nefesh. There it is right there, so you can find it up in the Hebrew and you can find it in your Torahs as well. It's going to be the same thing. Which in this verse means living. Where is this word found? It's found in the waters. We can thus consider that although the choice is ours to make as to whether we submit or not to Yehovah Elohim through His word, life will always be found in the water of the word, the Mem. In this verse we also read about the winged fowl. The first time that we see the letter Kaf as the root of a word in Torah is found in verse 21 in the word Kanaf, means wings. Kanaf is a word that means to spread out and to bring in. It recognizes the outpouring of blessings and the taking in of blessings. So in the letter Kaf, we understand that Kaf represents blessings. This is the letter Kaf. Sometimes we see it as a final form. It kind of looks like that if you can. Anyway, so we have an idea that something else is involved in this verse, that Kanaf, the letter Kaf, represents blessings, another benefit of making the right choice in Tet. Although Elohim may grieve when we make the wrong choices, He still sees our ability to choose as good. We must be able to perceive the word of Eloheinu, that is, our Elohim. It's a personal relationship. He is our Elohim. And it must be our choice to choose His undeserved favor. Thus we have the fifth day. The fifth day, we say 5 is what? 5 is the numerical value of grace, which is undeserved favor, but the first time we see the fifth letter of the alphabet, which is Kaneh, as a root of a word in Torah, or which is Hey, is the root of a word in Torah, is the word Kaneh, which means to behold. So we have to pay attention in order to see and receive the undeserved favor that we have from our Elohim. So we finally come to the 6th day, and we read about what was created here. Verse 25 says, And Elohim made the beast of the earth after its kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps on the ground. There's that creepy thing again. After its kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. So what can we begin to take from this? Simply that Elohim made animals and creepy things, or can we consider another idea? So let's consider the word used for beast in this verse. Normally the word used for beast would be behemah. But the word used for beast here is chayet, a word that means life. That's interesting. Why are we using a word that means life to define a word that means beast? Or why are we using a word that's beast in English to define a word that means life in Hebrew? I guess that's how we should say. So we read that Elohim made life of the earth after its kind. Considering this, we ask, what life can be found? So if we take that and we take beast out and we say Elohim made life of the earth after its kind, what kind of life do we find? And we see in the word behemah, which is used also for cattle, this word literally means a dumb, mute animal that stands on 4 legs. Okay? Stands on 4 legs. Metaphorically, we see how we are when we are supported by the Dalet. Dalet, the numerical value of Dalet is 4. That if we are supported by our spiritual poverty, We are unwilling to speak or do not know the word. We are unwilling to enter into the word. And that is one choice that we have. What else was created? The creeping thing. Again, we have to be in the aforementioned state of being, that if we are in that aforementioned state of being, in the state of spiritual poverty where we choose not to speak the word or understand the word, then we have chosen that side of Tet. The creeping thing, the Tet, the thing that crawls on its belly. We've chosen not to seek our Elohim through his word. We've chosen not to allow the rest, protection, and nourishment that comes from the word to build us up and take us out of our spiritual poverty. Again, although it may grieve Elohim that we made the wrong choice, he sees our ability to choose as good. Because he said that everything that creeps on the ground after its kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. He will not interfere with our free will. He considers our free will to be a good thing. We have to choose. And it grieves our Elohim when we choose the wrong way. And we can take that back to the second verse of Bereshit, where we talked about last week that the earth was unformed and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And it says, and the spirit of Elohim hovered over the face of the waters. The word for hovered is literally a word that means grieved. That he could see our condition. He could see the state of humankind as shapeless and unformed and dark, sitting in tehom, a state of confusion, a state of distraction. And it says that he grieved over the state of that being. So he grieves, but he rejoices at the fact that we have the ability to choose. So, we move on to verse 26. And Elohim said, let us make man, let us make Adam in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish and of the sea and of the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Now notice it says, and let us make Adam. And it says, and let them. In this stage of creation, Adam is not the personal name of a guy. Adam is talking about the entirety of humankind. Both male and female. This is not gender specific. It affects us all. We are created, first of all, Tselem, meaning not necessarily a physical resemblance, but rather a shadow that is to mimic the actions of the original. We are created in the image of Elohim, right? We are created as a shadow to mimic the actions of our Elohim. Elohim is not an old bearded white guy up there touching the finger of some guy named Adam, as we see on the Sistine Chapel. We are created in the image of Elohim in that we have the ability to reason, the ability to think things through. It is that we are demut that is important to us. This word means to be something or like something in thoughts and emotions. And demut is a word for likeness. That we are created in the image, we are created to be a reflection of Elohim, but in his likeness we are created to be able to think and have emotions along the same line as our Elohim. And because of that, we are able to communicate with our Elohim, and he's able to communicate with us. We are to have the love and compassion of our Creator and increase that in our lives. Be fruitful and multiply. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the water, dominate life in accordance to the word. Over the fowl of the air, enjoy the blessings that come from following the word. And over every living thing that moves on the earth, we are to dominate our spiritual being not allowing it